The fighting between Russia and Ukraine has a long history. To understand it, we need to go back to 1991 when the Soviet Union broke apart. Ukraine became a new country, but Russia was suspicious. Russia, first with Boris Yeltsin as president and then Vladimir Putin, thought of Ukraine as part of its own area of control. Russia and Ukraine share a lot of history and culture, and many Russians felt Ukraine was just an extension of Russia. Making things worse, NATO, a group of countries including the US, started letting in former Soviet countries. Russia saw this as a threat, like the West was moving closer to their borders. Then, in 2004, people in Ukraine protested to become closer to the West. This was called the Orange Revolution. Russia didn't like this. All of this caused tension between Russia and Ukraine. In 2014, Ukraine became the center of a big problem. The Euromaidan revolution started because the Ukrainian government decided to work more closely with Russia instead of the European Union. People who wanted to be closer to Europe protested. They wanted to remove President Yanukovych. During all the trouble, Russia took control of Crimea, a part of Ukraine where most people are Russian. Russian soldiers went into Crimea and took over important buildings and areas. A quick vote happened, but many countries said it wasn't fair. Russia then said Crimea was part of Russia. Countries around the world were shocked, and many said Russia was wrong to take Crimea. They punished Russia by not letting them do certain things which are called sanctions. Then fighting started in eastern Ukraine between the Ukrainian army and rebels who were supported by Russia. This is the start of the war in Donbass. To try and stop the fighting in eastern Ukraine, countries signed agreements called the Minsk Agreements in 2014 and 2015. These agreements were supposed to stop the fighting, make both sides move their big weapons away, and give Donbass more control over itself. But the agreements didn't work. The fighting continued, and the agreements weren't followed. Ukraine and Western countries said Russia was helping the rebels, and Russia said Ukraine wasn't giving Donbass enough control. As the fighting went on, Russia and the West became even more angry at each other. Russia thought the West was trying to make Russia weaker by helping Ukraine. Russia started putting more soldiers near Ukraine's border. In 2021, Russia practiced with its army near Ukraine. This made other countries worry that Russia might invade Ukraine, even though Russia said it wouldn't. Many countries worried a big war might start in Europe. On February 24, 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. Russian soldiers attacked places all over Ukraine, including the capital city, Kiev. President Putin said this was a special military operation to make Ukraine weaker and get rid of Nazis. Countries around the world said this was wrong and that Russia shouldn't attack Ukraine. The United Nations told Russia to leave Ukraine, but Russia didn't listen. Western countries punished Russia with many sanctions, making it hard for Russia to do business and sell things like oil and gas. The US and other countries gave Ukraine weapons and information to help them fight. Many people in Ukraine had to leave their homes and go to other countries. This was the biggest refugee crisis in Europe since World War II. The war has caused many problems around the world, like making food and gas more expensive.